and I've been delighted to be able to work with the Older People's Network for some time now. Care and Repair England is a national charity working around housing and older people and the issues and concerns that older people have. So, I couldn't believe it when I looked. It was June 2017 when we met, and we had a workshop around housing and older people. But we were very creative and came up with lots of really good suggestions. But it's what's happened since then that's, of course, the key point. And I think this is the one that we need to remember. We believe that everyone should have access to a decent home, whatever their age, including in later life. And we worked really hard to try and get that message across to people. And so the manifesto that we created was distributed far and wide by many participants. But now we want to know what's happened next. And at this time of year, the thought that we need warm, safe homes is really important. As I know, as I left this morning, it was not that warm. So what's happened? Well, there are some things happening in some places, and some things not happening in other places. One of the things that we talked about was information and advice around our housing and options in later life. And when we met in 2017, I think there were possibly 2 or 3 people working across the whole of Greater Manchester as housing options advisors for older people. And most of them were working in crisis situations, so often linked to hospital discharge. So if people couldn't return to their own homes, their job was to find them an alternative. But since then, 6 boroughs out of 10 now have housing options for older people workers, and they are not all working in crisis situations. So they're available to people who perhaps have a diagnosis of a long-term condition or are thinking about the future, and is their current home adaptable? Can they change it? What things are available to them? And so it's been a real joy to find that thing that we've been saying is we need good information and advice is being taken up, sometimes by housing providers, sometimes by local authorities, sometimes in partnership with CCGs. So people are getting the message is that we don't know what we don't know, but we want to know more. So I'm really delighted about that. The handy person schemes are still available, thankfully, in Manchester, Wigan, Oldham and Bolton, but they're not everywhere. And I've just been doing a piece of work for Lancashire about their handy person scheme, which is being threatened with cuts at the moment. That the importance of that, and it's not just the physical getting jobs done, it's getting jobs done by somebody you can trust, that helps you maintain your health, your well-being as well. You're not anxious about things, you're not leaving things until they're big jobs because you know you can get them done easily. So this is the other thing we were talking about. We need neighbourhoods that are designed, and we need ageing population to be present in all documents. We did also talk about health professionals being able to offer a housing assessment, and sadly the NHS announced its 10-year plan this week, which sadly has a lack of recognition of the importance of a home in its document, but we're still working on that one. And we're still working on creating the closer links with health and housing. But things that are moving, the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework, it will be approved by the Combined Authority on Friday, and is already the documents available. And within the 1,000 pages, I know a lot of work has been done to make sure that it's an age-friendly document. But even though it may be age-friendly at the Greater Manchester level, there's still work needs to be done at local levels to ensure that all those things about making sure that all neighbourhoods are age-friendly is being done. I was at a meeting in Wakefield, and they have made specific piece of work with all major developments that they have to include age-friendly housing, and they have designed their own flexi bungalow so that they will be bungalows available in all communities. So that's something that we need to be looking for in the spatial framework, and perhaps responding to that in our work ahead. A piece of work that was done by the Greater Manchester Ageing Hub called Right Sizing, which is looking at where do older people actually move to. Because if you talk to some planners, they think that everybody wants to move into sheltered housing or extra care housing. And actually, this research gives evidence to the fact that the majority of us don't move into small houses. The majority of people will move, if they're in a 4-bedroom, they may move to a 4-bedroom that's better located, or they might move to a 3-bedroom. But the reality is most people don't move into a 1-bedroom property in later life, because we've got so much stuff, so many things going on. I think we need more space than they give us credit for. Anyway, but the right sizing is evidence that we can now use, because we can say, look, the evidence is people don't move the way you think they do. This is what they do. And as Liz mentioned before, the Greater Manchester Health and Social Care Partnership, yes, I was depressed going to frailty workshops, I have to say. But the idea of going to a resilience and independent living workshop would have been much more attractive. But anyway, they're getting the message. We were looking at what new housing should be built. We wanted more imaginative housing options, which links in with the evidence. We know what we want. And having it available in localities. Well, some people are listening to us. The Centre for Ageing Better, and I think it was 12 charities, wrote to the House Builders Federation, who are the people who regularly say that you can't build more bungalows because they take more space. And they say that they're not economically viable. So 12 charities have written to them. There wasn't a great response from them, but it's given us a good argument to be going on with. And I think that's part of, in the locality discussions that we should be having, is saying that if the big volume house builders are not going to build what we want, let's work with people who will. And they may well be the small and medium-sized builders who are more local, who've got more interest in maintaining the communities that they're engaged with, because they live there. They want something to move to in later life as well. The other document that's there on the right is from the Northern Housing Consortium, Hidden Costs of Poor Quality Housing in the North, because it particularly highlighted the impact that has on older people, because it is older people who are more often living in housing that we would describe as not decent, or has trip hazards or hazards that make life more difficult for us as we get older. So there's lots of conversations going on, and they're still being had, but we still need to keep putting the pressure on. And it's lovely to hear in every, I was particularly delighted, James, at TFGM saying the first thing in their action plan is involving older people. And it's good to hear that, because it sometimes slips off people's agenda. They think that it's not important, but we know that it is. And I'm delighted that it's the first on your points going forward. So, yes. So, we have made progress. But as housing, as everybody says, you have a great plan and it takes 10 years before it actually sees any fruit or any bricks laid. We have a long way to go, and there will always be things that we can do better. So I look forward to continuing to work with you on this in the future. Thank you.